Hello everyone, my name is Professor Dipali Garg. I'm an assistant professor in Department of Physics in University of Engineering and Management, Jaipur. So you have tuned yourself to introductory physics classes. We are conducting these classes for students who are going to pursue engineering streams, who have planned to join engineering programs in our university. So these classes will mainly focus on uh, revision, reorganization, and repolishing of the concepts that are going to be very important for pursuing of engineering. So engineering, as all we know, is applied science. Engineering is, as we all know, is applied science. So if you don't have a good knowledge or good grasp over science, you cannot be a good engineer, because the basics matters. So, so in order to polish up, or in order to work on our basics, we need time. But whenever the semester starts, what happens is that we don't have enough time. We don't have enough time for these introductory classes or to have good uh, or to have a good discussion with teachers over basics. So our university have planned to utilize this time in lockdown, that is this part mid May till you get admitted. So we will use this time period to do the ob- objective. Our objective is to make you ready for the engineering, to work on your basics, so that when you study engineering, you can actually enjoy the process. And there is no shortcoming of yours. So this is an opportunity for you from our side, that you can work on yourself, become a very good student, work on your shortcomings, and come over it. So the main objective of my classes of physics introductory classes will be to make you ready, to make your concepts of physics ready for engineering. So even if you are good in physics, even if you are bad in physics, please be with me, listen to me, interact with me, and join on every Wednesday at 11 a.m. We will have a good discussion about the concepts, and hopefully you will enjoy my class. So let's start. As you all know, we are going to discuss physics. So let's start with the PPT. I have prepared a PPT, and that in that PPT, I will try to first inform you about basics, about the objectives of these classes. Then, what are the journey we are gonna travel together? The journey we are gonna be on together to obtain the desired objective. So let's start with the PPT. Just 1 minute. Sorry. Okay, so PPT has started. I hope it has appeared on your screen. So first of all, I would like to welcome all the students uh, who are admitting themselves, who are seeing these videos to UEM Jaipur. So these are introductory physics classes by Professor Dipali Garg. A little bit more about myself will be I have done my masters in physics from IIT Kharagpur. My main focus, my passion in life has been physics, and I have been teaching in university in UEM Jaipur since 2 years now. So I take physics of first year graduation undergraduate student. So I take courses like introduction to semiconductor physics, waves and oscillations and optics, and electromagnetic theory. These are the three courses that we take in our department, along with the laboratories. So first question is, Whenever we do a thing, why should we do it? So if we have to study physics, since it is unskippable and is an inevitable task, so why should I study physics? Why should I put my money and energy in studying physics? So first of all, as we all know, what is physics? Physics is is that branch of science which deals with the process in which we try to understand the world around us. Suppose I want to understand why am I sitting? Why am I attracted towards the center of the earth? Why earth is spherical? Why sky is blue? So everything that starts with why and relate itself to the world. That is, every question about this universe, about this world which starts with the why has an answer in physics. So why sky is blue? Why summers are hot? Why water evaporates? Every process which starts with a why naturally has an answer in physics. So physics helps us in understanding the world around us. So it increases your understanding about the world around us, around you. It increases your intellectual awareness about the world you are living in. Suppose you are talking to a commerce student, or suppose you are talking to a 10th class student. So you know that your understanding about the world, the scientific understanding of yours is much more as compared to a student of commerce or a student in lower classes. So since you have studied physics, so it has increases your understanding about the world around you. Second, the approach to study physics is always logical. So what you do is you observe a process around you and you critically think over it, and you try to obtain an answer that why it is happening, how it is happening. So this why and how is why it has come out of your mind, because you have used your mind in a analytical and logical way. You have done some critical thinking. So studying physics increases your logical thinking capacity, makes you more inclined towards critical thinking. Now, what is the importance of critical thinking in today's world? So, in logical thinking or critical thinking is very important. Suppose, for an example, as we know, we are living in the age of internet. So, we have both fake news and good news. So, since you have, enlighten yourself that you will think critically about everything, whenever you read a news, you just don't believe it. You do some critical thinking and you ask why, how, let me see. You check that thing. So this critical thinking is not only important in subject. This critical thinking is that you have established in yourself is important in every aspect of life. So suppose you want to study engineering, and you, by studying physics, you have studying physics and mathematics and other subjects also, you have established a good sense of critical thinking. So that critical thinking will help you excel in streams of engineering also in all other spheres of life. So critical thinking is very important, and physics naturally builds up logical thinking and critical thinking inside us. Now third thing is problem solving abilities. So, what is engineering? Engineering is just applied science. So, you have studied science. So, how I can use this knowledge and make it applicable? Take out some application from it and use it. Means changing science into technology is engineering, right? So, how can you change science into technology? First of all, you must have logical thinking. And second of all, you must know how to apply something. To apply something, you must have problem solving abilities. So engineering is always about solving complex problems of society. Suppose society is growing, suppose the population is growing, suppose we go 50-60 years back. Now we cannot manufacture things by hands, or we cannot manufacture things by workers. We need machines. During the industrial revolution, what happened was the population was increasing and the demand was also increasing. So you needed machines. So in order to have machines, we must have good engineers in our society. Those good engineers must have problem solving abilities and logical thinking. So to have this certain level of excellence in logical thinking and problem solving abilities, one must have good understanding in physics and mathematics. Okay. So again, fourth point is, as I'm repeating again and again, engineering is applied science. So if you have good grasp over science, your logical thinking and your problem solving abilities are very good, and engineering becomes much more easy as compared to when you don't have much hold on your sciences. Fifth is good strong hold in physics will develop your study style. So whenever you study physics, since you have started done some logical thinking and you have organized your thoughts, what happens is that it develops your study style. Now we all know that there is only in a class of 50. Suppose we have 50 students. All 50 students will have different study styles. Even if they all are doing same amount of hard work, let's suppose they all are doing same amount of hard work, still we know that some people will excel, some people will not excel. Let us consider that all people have same amount of talent. This is a hypothetical class and we have assumed that all people have same amount of caliber, same amount of capacity, and same amount of time for studying. Still there will be a vast difference between marks. The marks of the top and the marks of the person who has got lowest marks will be very large. So why there is a gap when we have equal talent, when we have put equal study hours? The problem is, the answer is that there is difference in style of studying. So what is studying? Studying is reading new information, obtaining knowledge from that information, organizing that information, and then feeding it into your mind, saving it in your mind, and then using it to solve problems. So studying physics develop your study style in such a way that mastering other subjects becomes very easy for you. So I hope till now you have understood why it is very important to study physics, because ultimately maybe you won't get any benefit from studying the concept, but how you study the concept, the journey will benefit your uh, mastery over other subjects. Okay, so let's move on. So how to study physics? So I'm sure many of you are very good in physics and many of you are very bad in physics. So let's break down the subject physics and then we will discuss. So physics mainly is always divided into three parts. Any concept in physics, the subject physics itself is divided upon three parts. So this is not standard terminology. This is my way of explaining things. Okay. So physics, as it is here, true in case of other subjects also, it is divided into three parts. First, it is qualitative explanation. Then we get quantitative explanation. Then we move on to numericals. So suppose we are taking an example of, say we are talking about interference. So what is qualitative discussion? Whenever teacher comes, whenever you read a book about interference, what you first study on 2 pages is that what are coherent sources, what is superposition of waves, what happens when two coherent sources superimpose on each other. So there is not even an iota of maths still there. यहाँ तक कोई भी मैथ्स का कोई शब्द नहीं आया है, कोई इक्वेशन भी नहीं है. Every explanation about interference is only explained in terms of words which are associated with the subject physics. Waves, superposition, coherence, like that. So qualitative explanation is the explanation of the phenomena in theoretical words. So whenever we study a subject, we start with the basics. That is the pure language-based explanation. When we understand this pure language-based explanation, we move to quantitative explanation. That is, now we use mathematics, we use derivation, we use figures to obtain some mathematical formulas and some mathematical laws regarding that phenomenon. So first we get a qualitative explanation, that is a theoretical explanation. Second, we try to quantify this theoretical explanation. So we formulate some formulas and some laws and some equations regarding this theoretical explanation. Now third is the cumulative addition of both qualitative and quantitative. So third is applied part. So applied part is mainly consisting of conceptuals and numericals. So if you do not have any knowledge of quality, suppose you do not know any, you do not have any knowledge of quantitative step, you have skipped the middle part, you have skipped the derivation part, and a numerical comes. So you understand the concept, but you don't know what is the formula. So you won't be able to do any numerical. So for every step, for quantitative step, for the middle step, qualitative explanation is very important. For numerical part, for applied part, previous two steps, quantitative and qualitative steps, are both very important. Again, I'm repeating, qualitative word means something which is associated with quality. So here we are more concerned about the qualitative or quantity of explanation, quality of explanation. Now, second is quantitative. The word is associated with quantity. So here we want to quantify the explanation of the phenomena. Third is applied part. So we want to apply this qualitative and quantitative explanation, and we want to do some numericals and conceptuals. So there are three parts in physics, three parts in every concept of physics. First is theoretical explanation. Second is first is theoretical explanation. Second is derivation, and third is numericals and conceptuals. So from my experience till now, what I have heard from students is that they are mostly they face problems in numerical parts. So let's move on. This is what I have explained. Qualitative part means theory and explanation. So again, example, suppose if we are studying interference, so what we will study in qualitative part, interference is the phenomena observed when two coherent sources superimpose on each other. Pure explanation. Every word is associated with the dictionary of physics. There is not an iota of maths, not a digit 1, 2, 3 or anything. Okay, not even a formula. Now there comes after qualitative part comes the quantitative part. So the quantitative part is mathematical study. It is mainly derivation. Suppose, for example, we want to calculate the position of maxima and minima, and we want to calculate the fringe width. So mainly we obtain conditions and formulas by this step. Now third part is numerical part. Numerical part is the applied part of both qualitative and quantitative parts. So it is either conceptuals or numericals. This part requires the knowledge of both qualitative and quantitative parts. So you cannot solve numericals without one. You have to have the knowledge of both the parts. So if you are a student of 11th and 12th class and you are facing problems, so maybe the reason is that maybe your qualitative part is wrong or your quantitative part is weak. So before coming to numericals, first ensure that you have a good grasp over qualitative and quantitative explanation of the phenomena or of the chapter that you are studying. So this is an increasing order of difficulty. Qualitative part is easy. It's very easy. So whenever teacher explains this, if we are attentive, it's very easy to understand. Quantitative part, it's easy if you have a good grasp over the diagram. So whatever the diagram teacher is using to explain the derivation, or the graph the teacher is using to graph or circuit diagram the teacher is using to explain the derivation, please be very, very clear about it. So if in case if you do not understand the diagram, circuit diagram or graph, then the derivation part will be very difficult for you. So qualitative explanation is very easy if we are attentive. Quantitative part is very easy if we are clear with the diagram that we are starting with the derivation with. And numerical part is very easy if you have good knowledge of both two above parts. And numericals are not only associated with physics. This is a very wrong misconception that numericals are only a part of physics. No. Suppose you want to study computer science engineering. So you want to calculate how much byte of data we are going to use. Lots of numericals. Suppose how many gates will be used to form this type of circuit. So these type of numericals will always come. So to get rid of numericals, it's impossible in engineering. So please, now that you have time to improve your numerical part, take it and improve yourself. Suppose you want to study civil engineering. So you will have to do bigger 2-3 pages problems of how the weight of the ceiling is being distributed over the beams. You want to study mechanical engineering, so you have to study how the motors are working. etc. and etc. So numericals are inevitable. They will come not only in physics but in every stream of science and applied science, that is engineering. Okay. So these are so we will, as we will be revising ourselves. So first topic of revision will be units of measurement. Second will be scalars and vectors. Third is differentiation, integration, and how to solve numerical. Now, I want to tell something, that why we should focus on each of these chapters, why we should study units and measurements. So first of all is why we should study units and measurement is that this is the basic for all numerical problem solving, not only in physics but in all streams of engineering also. So if you have a weak knowledge of units and measurements, naturally you are going to face a lot of problems in solving problems regarding physics, chemistry, and other streams of engineering also. So this is your last chance, since you have already studied this in 11th. So this is your last chance to study it. No teacher will explain you this after this. So please be sure that you have 100% confidence over your grasp over this chapter. The second is scalars and vectors. You know that scalars and vectors are very different from each other. Scalar, for example, energy, and vector, for example, force, are very different from each other. Suppose we can add energy simply like 2 joules of energy and 4 joules of energy is equals to 2 plus 4, 6 joules of energy. But in the same way, you cannot add force. In the same way, you cannot add vectors. So there is a difference between the both quantities. So when there is a difference between two quantities, the effect of both quantities will be different also. The effect of scalar quantities and the effect of vector quantities on a phenomenon is also different. So the difference between the two quantities, scalars and vectors, how they are multiplied, how they are added, how they are subtracted, what is the projection, this must be very clear to you. Because when you do derivation, when you study mathematically in engineering, no teacher will explain you the basic. They will just say, so this is the projection of this vector on this vector. So at that time, you must have some prerequisite knowledge of these concepts. Now third is integration and differentiation. So I'm sure you have done a lot of hard work on your differentiation and integration in maths. We have dedicated maybe 3 or 4 chapters on differentiation and integration in CBSE mathematics books. It's time to understand, finally understand and settle this issue, that what is the meaning of differentiation and integration in physics. So we all know that if y is equals to x square, then dy by dx is 2x. We all know how to differentiate x to the power n, how to differentiate ex, how to differentiate sin x, how to differentiate cos x. We all know that. What we don't know is that why we should differentiate. What if I am differentiating x? What quantity I am changing x into? So the physical meaning of these differentiations and integration in physics, that we will discuss a little bit. After that, the main and the most important part of this lecture series will be how to solve numericals. So this is a very important aspect of our discussion. Next topics will be bulk properties of matter, introduction to semiconductors, wave oscillations, optics, electric field and magnetic field, etc. So bulk properties of matter, this is a chapter number, I guess 6th in 11th class in CBSE board. So this chapter is a basics for civil and mechanical engineering. Also, this chapter will be used for experiment part in first year. Now, introduction to semiconductor will be crucial in case of computer science engineering. So those who want to pursue computer science engineering, they have to deal with computers, they have to deal with chips, they have to deal with diodes, transistors, etc. and etc. So in order to go in the depths of those study fields, you must have the basic knowledge of semiconductors. So that is the thought behind this. So those who will be taking computer science engineering, those will be studying semiconductors in their first year. After that, waves and oscillations. So waves and oscillations will be mostly benefiting students who will be taking ECE, that is electronics and communication engineering and civil engineering. Let me quote an example. So as we have studied communication chapter in class 12th CBSE, we all know that we communicate by sending waves. We send a wave from Earth to a receiver. Then that receiver send that wave or a signal to another receiving receiver. So we must have the basic knowledge of waves and oscillations. Similarly, in civil engineering, you study something about what is the effect of earthquake on buildings. So what is earthquake? What does earthquake do? This earthquake produces waves on disturbances in Earth's surface. So you must have the basic knowledge of waves and oscillations. So everything which is being taught to you in my class, in these classes, will be crucially important for your in this learning process of yours, in this coming learning process of yours. So the knowledge of optics will be very beneficial for EC engineering again, because normally we now communicate by using optical fibers and light. Lastly, electric and magnetic fields. This will be essential for electrical engineering and mechanical engineering, because we use magnets and current in running machines and in building machines. So whenever your study will be associated with machines, that is mechanical and electrical engineering, you must have a basic knowledge of electrical and magnetic fields. So till now I have explained that we are going to study these 10 topics, and the knowledge in 10 topics will be very crucial for your further journey in engineering. So let's take a minute and then we will start a class. Let's take a minute here. So starting with the class now. Till now we have just discussed why we should study physics, what we have to study physics for a further journey. So starting off with a very easy concepts, units and measurement. So what is measurement? If I ask you what is measurement, the obvious first 2 and 3 words that will come to your mind is measuring something, right? If I say what is measurement, the first 3 obvious words that will come to your mind is measuring something, right? So let's understand with an example. Your teacher, is asking you, I'm giving you a task. Here is a picture of an apple on your screen. Your task is to measure the mass of this apple. So you have to be very attentive right now. So because we are doing this task, please be very attentive. So your task is to measure the mass of this apple. So please, for 1 second, you have to pay attention that I have underlined measure and mass word. So I'm going to explain the importance of these 2 words in further PPT, in further slide. Now, your task is to measure the mass of this apple. Can you measure it? Just by looking at it, can you measure it? Answer is no. You cannot measure it, you can only guess. You can only make a guess by looking at the size of this apple, that maybe it is 100 gram, maybe it is 80 gram, maybe it is 120 or it is 150. So if 100 students are doing this task with me, the 100 answers will be, the 100 people will have 100 different answers. They can have 100 different answers, but this is not measurement. What is measurement is, what is my purpose of explaining with this task is that measurement is not guessing. Before measurement, we are only guessing something. We are in uncertainty. But after measuring something, we get certain. We become certain. So what is measuring? Measuring is a process. Please read these lines. Measuring, sorry. Measuring is a process of obtaining certain value of a desired quantity with the help of an instrument. So now, in your thought experiment, did you use a weighing scale? In order to measure mass, did you use a weighing scale? You used a weighing scale, right? So measuring is a process of obtaining certain value. Certain means 100% fixed. There might be an error, but a certain value of the desired quantity with the help of an instrument. So now let's read from the start. So by looking at the apple, we can only take a guess that it is maybe 100 gram, 120 gram or 150 gram. But with the help of an instrument, that is weighing scale, we will be certain. So measuring is a process of becoming certain, becoming confident of a value of a desired quantity with the help of an instrument. So in our example, the quantity was mass. We wanted to measure mass. The instrument was weighing scale, and a certain value. Suppose we have done this experiment with the weighing scale, and a certain value of quantity is 120 gram. So what is 120 gram? 120 gram is 120 is magnitude, and gram is unit. So whenever you measure, first of all, what do you measure? You measure a quantity. How do you measure? By help of an instrument, by help of an appropriate instrument. Then what do you get after measurement? You get two things, magnitude and unit. So four important aspects of measurement we will understand. What do you measure? You measure physical quantity. How do you measure? By using an appropriate instrument. What do you get? A magnitude and a unit. Again, what do you measure? A physical quantity. How do you measure? By a physical instrument, by an appropriate instrument. What do you get? A magnitude and a unit. Four things. So if one is missing, you cannot do measurement. If you do not know you do not know the quantity, you cannot measure. If you do not have the instrument, you cannot measure. If you does not know the magnitude, only unit, you do not have a certain value. Or if you know the magnitude, you do not know the unit, then also you do not have the certain value of measurement. So for measurement, four things are important: quantity, instrument, magnitude, and unit. So let's discuss a little bit more. So what are the things that we measure around us in our daily life, and how do we measure them? So first quantity is mass. We always measure mass. How? Whenever we go out to buy vegetables, grocery, or when our mothers go out to buy some gold. So what do we use? We use a weighing scale, and units we use are kilogram for vegetables, again kilogram for grocery, and milligram for gold. Okay. Sometimes we use gram for grocery also and for vegetables also. Now the second thing we go out to buy is milk, oil, medicine, and cold drinks. So how do we measure these things? We measure these things by volume. So whenever we buy cold drink, we say, "Bhaiya, please give us 250 ml wala cold drink." Whenever we go out to say milk, though conventionally we say कि 1 kilo milk दे दो, but उसका मतलब होता है 1 liter milk दे दो. That is our conventional mistake that we are repeating daily. That is not 1 kg milk. It is 1 liter milk. So how do we measure volume? We measure volume by a measuring cylinder. So दूध वाले भैया के पास हमेशा एक measuring cylinder होता है, सभी ने देखा होगा, ठीक है? और कोल्ड ड्रिंक और मेडिसिन पहले से मेजर्ड होती है उनके पैकेट में. So what are the units of measuring volume? Liters and milliliter. Now third, temperature. So what are the examples of measuring temperature? Whenever you have fever, what do you measure? You measure the temperature of your body. So whenever you feel hot, what do you measure? You just open your phone and see the temperature of your city. The temperature, the minimum and maximum temperature of your city. So whenever you see the cricket match, you see the temperature at the pitch. What is the temperature in the stadium? So whenever you try to switch on your AC, you always set a certain temperature. So we are measuring temperature daily on a very regular basis, knowingly or unknowingly. So how do we measure temperature? Either it is digitally measured or we have a thermometer. So what are the units? Celsius, Fahrenheit, and Kelvin. So first of all, let me please clarify the difference between Celsius, Fahrenheit, and Kelvin. Kelvin is the standard unit of temperature. The zero of the Kelvin is the minimum temperature of the temperature range. The zero of Kelvin scale is the minimum temperature possible, but the zero of Celsius and Fahrenheit is not the minimum temperature possible. The zero of Celsius is the freezing point of ice, and we normally get temperatures lower than 0 degrees Celsius in a refrigerator also. Okay. So the fourth thing conventionally we measure daily in our life is our height, clothes, and we also buy mobile by seeing the screen size. So this is 5.5-inch screen. My laptop is 15.6 inch. So we are measuring length in our regular life very and very evidently. So what instruments we use? We use meter scale, vernier caliper, screw gauge, units meter, centimeter, millimeter, inches, etc. Lastly, distance. So normally what do you measure? You measure distance between school and college. You open your phone, you see the distance between you and your destination, and it is now that you have an idea of the distance, you take the mode of transportation according to that. So we are measuring distance regularly in our life. So normally we measure distance by odometer, and if we are not using an instrument, we are depending ourselves on the technology, then we use Google Maps. And the most conventional unit used is kilometer in India and miles in America. So this will be all for today. Please tune into my class on next Wednesday 11 a.m. and we will take this class from here to a very fruitful discussion. There will be a dialogue between you and us, and the main aim will be learning. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed my class.